In today's gospel, we get one of the most famous call or vocation stories in the scriptures, the call of Matthew, or Levi, as he's known in Hebrew. Now, we remember the famous calls of like Peter and Andrew, but Peter is called from fishing, which was a good and noble thing for a Jew of that time to be doing. Levi, or Matthew, however, is called at the very act of tax collecting. He's at his customs post, the gospel tells us. And that's a very important detail. You see, I think a lot of times we believe that if God is going to want to approach us, if God is going to bless us, if God would give us his grace, well, that somehow we need to get our stuff together. Like, okay, I need to get rid of sin. I need to purify myself. I need to pray more. I need to get holier. And then if I do all these things, then maybe God will want to approach me. The story of Matthew shows us that God is exactly the opposite. You see, to be a tax collector at the time of Matthew, here's why it's such a sinful, depraved thing. That the Romans were the hated occupying force in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land at the time. Jews, Romans did not get along. They were oppressing the Jews. To be a tax collector then, as a Jew, was to cooperate with the Romans. It was despicable. You're betraying your own people, and they're also ripping them off because you charge what the Romans charge for tax, and then you charge a little bit extra for yourself. So Matthew, like any tax collector, was probably getting rich off his post and really cooperating with the enemy. Could not be more depraved and despised at that time. Where does Jesus go to encounter Matthew? Right in the middle of it, right to the customs post. There's that story in the gospel of the woman caught in adultery, and it says that, she was caught in the very act of adultery to kind of heighten the sense of the wrongness of it. Well, in today's gospel, Matthew is caught in the very act of tax collecting, lower than low. And yet this is precisely where Jesus comes to meet Matthew, and he calls him. He says simply, follow me. And this is how God's grace works, because at the invitation from Jesus, Matthew responds to the grace. He says, I will. And he leaves. He leaves that whole life behind, all his wealth, all of his tax collecting, his prestige, his position. Apparently, he just gets up and follows Jesus. And then we see how grace works. Now, he's gone from sitting at a tax collecting post in the midst of sin to he throws a party. He invites all his friends and wants to tell them about Jesus. You see how grace works. I think Jesus loves to go into the depths of our brokenness and sinfulness because, well, it's kind of the biggest return on investment, to use modern language, I suppose. Jesus himself says those who are well, they don't need a physician. They think they're okay. But sinners, those who feel like, I just can't do this. I am lower than low. I'm at the end of my rope. I can't help myself. I can't do anything to make this better. Now that is exactly the position that attracts God's merciful gaze, draws Jesus right in with his merciful heart. So if you're struggling today, if you feel like, I'm so unworthy, why would God come near me? I got to change this, and I got to get rid of this. And, Lent is one of those times where we do focus on that. What do I need to change? But don't think that somehow you're going to have a good Lent by changing all this stuff, and then you'll be more worthy for God to love you. Just the opposite. If you're in the very act of sinning, brokenness, far from God, good. You're at exactly the right spot because Jesus loves people in that situation. Then he can save them. So you have a claim on Jesus' mercy. Don't be afraid to bring it to him. And then when the invitation of grace comes, don't be afraid to say yes. When Jesus comes close and says, follow me, say yes. And then just see the miracle that grace can work. And God bless you.